YouTube is getting rid of dislikes. James Charles has found himself the target of yet more allegations, and it's the laughing lady's birthday. Happy birthday. All this plus shout out to Little Nas X. Hope he's doing well. On this week's edition of YouTuber News, hosted by me, Benedict Townsend, and brought to you by PopBuzz, the only website that is currently blocking the Suez Canal. And a few little bits of housekeeping before we get on with the show. First of all, it's a bit of a quick episode today because it's the long weekend and we've got one less day for our editors to edit in, and they are, well, lazy, I guess. They don't like working on their days off, so another reason I would argue we shouldn't pay them, but that's another conversation. So it's a slightly shorter episode today. Also, it is, of course, the laughing lady's birthday, so happy birthday, Amber. Thank you for everything you do. And also, just a little note to you, there's no David Dobrik on this week's episode. David Nobrick on this episode, because I'm sick and tired of talking about that man and his weird friends. Our first story, YouTube has announced that it's getting rid of the dislike button. So make sure to get all your dislikes in now. Not on this video though. Not on this video, please. What have I done? I get that it would be funny to now dislike this video and then people would come and be like, why has this been so disliked? What's Ben done? And then they watch the video and they're like, oh, because it's like an in-joke. But it's still not good for us to do that. It's still not good if you do that to our video. Please don't dislike it. On Twitter, YouTube said, quote, in response to creator feedback around well-being and targeted dislike campaigns, we're testing a few new designs that don't show the public dislike count. If you're part of this small experiment, you might spot one of these designs in the coming weeks. Creators, you'll still be able to see the exact number of likes and dislikes in YouTube Studio. For viewers, if you're in the experiment, you can still like or dislike a video to share feedback with creators and help tune the recommendations you see on YouTube. So in other words, the dislike button is still there, you just cannot see the number of dislikes, although the creator themselves can see it in the back end if they want to. Now, shockingly, some people didn't like a decision that YouTube had made, and one person tweeted them saying, well, this kind of disrupts the way I watch videos. Sometimes it's nice if you click on a video and see immediately that it has loads of dislikes. That's a sign that maybe you shouldn't watch that video. It kind of ruins the feedback part. And YouTube replied to them directly saying, quote, viewer feedback is an important part of YouTube, but we've heard from creators that the current experience can negatively impact their well-being. We also know that public dislike counts sometimes motivate targeted campaigns of dislikes on some videos. And the thing is here, folks, they're completely correct. I mean, look at the YouTube rewinds. You've done this to yourself, guys. You've all been way too immature, and now the teacher has taken your dislikes away. YouTube's not angry, it's just disappointed. That being said, don't dislike this video. I can't emphasize this enough. It does mean, though, that people can now try and claim that their video is the most disliked video of all time because no one could prove you wrong. If this happens, I'm going to pick an episode of YouTuber News in the future and I'm just going to announce that's the most disliked video of all time. Who's going to be able to call me out? No one. I'll be the king of dislikes. Now, as I said, it's a speedy episode today, but rest assured, I've decided the show's been too gloomy lately because the news has just been so depressing with all the David Dobrik stuff, all of that, and obviously we have to cover that news, but I just feel like it's been way too gloomy, so in future episodes, I'm bringing back more rap, I'm bringing back more nonsense, because quite frankly, it's getting a bit tiring treating all this YouTube news like real news. That being said, sometimes there are serious stories which we should cover, like this next one, which is about James Charles, who's found himself once again at the target. He's found himself at the other end of some unsavory allegations. Now, a 15-year-old says that James was messaging him and, of course, was posting their messages on his story. And then James Charles noticed that this boy was sharing their messages on his story. And then he immediately started accusing this guy of lying about his age. And then he immediately blocked him. And then the young guy claims he never lied about his age. He claims that James Charles knew he was young. I mean, it's just another installment in this ongoing saga of James Charles allegedly messaging underage boys. Now, before we wrap up, I want to give a quick shout out to Tim Factory, of course, the man who runs factories that make factories, because as one eagle-eyed follower pointed out to me this week, he seems to have branched out into ships that carry ships. I don't know if we have the rights to show this photo, but there's a ship that carries ships, and I can only assume Tim Factory is working on this. And if you know of any other examples of this, a thing that makes a thing or carries itself, please send them to me at Benedict Town. That's my social media on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. If you find an example of a Tim Factory out in the world, please send it to me. And if we get even one example, I will feature it on this show because I am fascinated by them. If you want more news, there was a new episode of the YouTuber News podcast that came out this week, as I mentioned previously on Quick Bites, featuring a story about Charlie D'Amelio simply disappearing from TikTok and other stuff as well, including an installment of Rat, the Story of a Rat, the biography of the rat, which is even more insane than it sounds. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be Global Player, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. But until then, have a great weekend, especially if you're somewhere where you get to have a long weekend. Isn't that fun? Either way, look after yourselves, have a good time, and a very Merry Christmas to you all.
Oh, that's hot.